Hey, we're live.
We are live. We live. Happy whiskey Saturday night, gentlemen. How are we?
We are good.
It's a saucy Saturday.
It's a steamy Saturday here in Los Angeles. It's very humid and gross.
You know what? It was a stormy one here.
Stormy and steamy tonight for the booze dancing
lightning,
crew.
the whole bit. Tons of rain too.
Hello.
Flood watch.
We are live again on Booze Dancing Entertainment Network with another live stream, What We Watch When We Drink episode to be turned into a podcast at a future date. And it's we don't do Saturday Night Live. We just do.
We haven't in a long time.
We have not. We have, but not in a long time. We were kicked off the show back in the 70s. Chevy kicked us off and never came back. Chevy started doing too much cocaine, and we just couldn't. We wouldn't be his mule.
Or as we like to say, cocaina.
Cocaine. And this is the reason that we are off the National Broadcasting Corporation's family of networks.
This is not Narcos. This is what we watch when we drink.
Yeah.
All right. What we watch when we drink. So we are live. By the way, we are live on all kinds of places. Our website, boozedancing.com, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. Where else?
I think that's it. I think that's enough.
That's enough. So you want to roll the intro?
I will. I'm going to do it.
Bring in our guest.
I'm going to do it right now. Ready?
Do it now. Go for it.
Do it.
Welcome to What We Watch When We Drink, a Booze Dancing Entertainment Network podcast featuring lively discussions about movies, TV shows, and anything else that we're watching while we drink our favorite boozy beverages. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Audible, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can also find us on boozedancing.com, and if you have any questions, comments, show or drink suggestions, email us at boozedancing@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
And we'd love to hear from you tonight because you can always put comments in the chat in all those different social media or streaming places, YouTube and Facebook. Just put some comments in. We'll be happy to respond to you and ask questions. And yeah, there you go. And definitely rate us on your podcast forum when you get a chance. Booze Dancing Entertainment Network, What We Watch When We Drink. And we have a very special guest tonight. And we met this gentleman, Ange, you and I met him
back in June at Kiddish Fest
in New York City, the city with very tall buildings. We were lucky to meet Josh Mann from the First Cut Barrel Company. And we are welcoming Josh to our program. Hi, Josh.
Hey, guys. Thanks
Hello,
for
Josh.
having me. Very excited to be here. Thanks.
And Josh, where are you right now?
I am currently in beautiful Stamford, Connecticut at First Cut Barrel Company, our brand new first-class distillery here in Stamford.
Wow. Well, thanks for coming on. We are going to be talking to Josh tonight, and he was nice enough to send us some samples of some whiskeys that he is producing. And we're going to be also talking about a movie that we've all seen and I think probably all liked, a Fish Called Wanda. So we'll get to that shortly.
Yeah.
First, we want to find out from Josh, what's First Barrel Cut all about? First Barrel Company all about?
First Cut Barrel Company.
First Cut Barrel Company.
Yeah, so we kind of have a unique concept. Most distilleries, they are either distilling or they're sourcing product from other distilleries. And they're putting out a brand that they're investing in, and they're trying to, build brand recognition and marketing around their brand and all these kinds of things. We're kind of taking an opposite approach, whereas other distilleries are looking for lots of the same in order to create consistency in product. We're doing something different. We're looking for as wide a variety as possible, and everything ultimately is for our client. So we're not putting out anything under our own First Cut brand. Everything is for our individual client on a per barrel or per small batch basis, whether that's whiskey clubs, individual private enthusiasts or investors, collectors, any kind of fraternal groups, corporate gifts, that kind of thing. And it's been really exciting. We right here on the East Coast, there's nobody else. I don't even know really anybody else in the country that's actually allowing people to forget about just buying your own single barrel, but we actually let you pick out each component from mash bill to barrel size to entry proof to char level, every piece. And not only that, you get to actually come in and fill the barrel yourself. You could do new fill, or we could end up sourcing barrels from other amazing distilleries around the world. And after that, the client gets to pick their glass bottle style, gets to design their label. Everything gets TTB approved by the government. The client chooses the closure, whether it's wax or a pull tab or something. We produce the whole thing, make it look beautiful, and get it to the client. And it's been a lot of fun. We've been in business now. The process has been about a year with all the regulations and renovations and everything like that. But we've really been open for business about a little over 6 weeks, and we've got a phenomenal response. It's really been unbelievable. Very exciting for us.
There's a million questions, but let's step back a little bit. So how did you get into whiskey yourself? What was your introduction to the spirit?
It's kind of funny. I really never drank liquor. Even in college, it was always beer. I went to college in Pittsburgh, and it's, very much a Yingling kind of town, or at least it was back then. And
probably still is.
Yeah. And that's not a bad thing, but it definitely wasn't whiskey. I ended up moving to Boston. Ultimately, I'm from New York, but I moved to Boston. I met my wife. We got married in Boston, and she was in some local liquor store buying a bottle of wine for something, and they somehow convinced her to enter a rare whiskey raffle. This is probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago now, 8 years maybe. And she did it. She didn't know anything about whiskey, but she did it to support the charity. And then one day she gets a call from the retailer. They pulled my name. She put my name in the thing, and they gave us a list of whiskeys to choose from. And they said, pick whichever you want. This is what's left, and come and pick it up. So I'm looking at this list, and I don't recognize any of these names. All I was familiar with was Wild Turkey, Jack Daniels. That was pretty much it. So I started doing a little research, and I really kind of just started at that rabbit hole. I got a little interested. That first bottle ended up being a Weller 12-year. And even then, I had no idea what I was holding. And I ended up opening it. I tried it. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I kind of see what all this excitement is about. And that's really how it all got started. And from there, it was all downhill. Between collecting and samples, and it's been the biggest blessing in my life. I've met so many great friends. Oh, did I freeze?
Nope, you're good.
For a second, but we had audio, we didn't have video, I think.
You're fine with me. I can see you fine.
Okay.
So do you remember your bottle of Weller? Was it really something you long for now?
I wish I was not so cavalier about drinking it so quickly. I really had no idea. If I'd known that I'd never be able to get one again, maybe I would have savored it a little bit more.
Well,
see, what I got out of the story is first you got married and then you started drinking.
Yeah, there you go.
No. Well, maybe.
Maybe.
So how does that go? How do you get from there to First Cut?
So I got really into the online whiskey community, and it was a lot of started barrel picks, right? People, especially groups, were picking individual barrels, and whiskey was new to me, but barrel picks was really new. I had no idea what this was, and I started learning more and more, and I learned that every barrel is like a fingerprint, and you can never really exactly replicate any one single barrel. You can come close, but never exactly. And what you buy in the store from these big brands are they're looking for consistent product with consistent taste. But what you give up in that is those really fun, crazy, funky, unique barrels that don't fit that particular taste. And that's what I'd noticed. A lot of these barrel picks were like the black sheep. And people were getting really excited about them. And I started buying them. I started trying them. I was like, wow, this is really cool. I mean, some of them were pretty bad. Others were incredible. And you couldn't, it wasn't like, oh, this brand always was good. And this brand, it came down to the individual barrel and the people picking it. And I fell in love with this whole thing, with the community, with the camaraderie, with the hunt for the barrels, the whole thing. This was like a whole world that I didn't even know existed, and something about it I loved. And so I started getting involved with a bunch of whiskey groups, and everybody was so great and nice. And I'm Jewish. I grew up in a somewhat religious house, and I noticed as I was doing this whole whiskey thing, a lot of these names were Jewish names, like a lot of Goldsteins and Schwartzes and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, it would be funny to like start like a Jewish kind of funny themed group. I didn't exactly know what I was going to do with it, but I just thought it would be kind of a funny thing. I actually didn't even know if anybody would join. So I called it Jews and Booze. I thought that was kind of a funny little thing. And it just exploded. It started off with a whiskey advent calendar for Hanukkah. I called it 8 Whiskey Nights of Hanukkah. And
great idea.
Yeah, after that, it just exploded. And then we started doing barrel picks. We started supporting lots of different charities. And it's just been unbelievable. So we started Jews and Booze in November of 2020. So that was not long into.
That was a club.
Oh yes, Jews and Booze it's basically an online club.
Got it. Okay.
But I formed it in November of 2020, and it just exploded. Now we've got over 1,300 members. We've done 61 barrel picks. We've raised many thousands of dollars for charity. We've done all these different events like Kiddush Fest, and the way the Genesis worked, it's kind of interesting that barrel picks, really, you were picking a brand's barrels from their barrels. And the way it worked is it would still be their label, their branding. But a lot of the groups would take a little creative license in adding wax or like a fun sticker or something like that. And it was part of the whole package, And so I was doing that. And then what I quickly learned was that the whiskey from a lot of these brands is the same. I mean, 80% of the brands are from MGP. And so they're all picking from the same barrels. The only thing that's making them different is the branding and marketing and maybe the palate of the person picking the barrels. But, basically everyone's picking from the same barrels. Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm working so hard and I'm doing all these Jews and Booze barrels. Why don't I try and find somebody who would do a Jews and Booze branded bottle? And so I found a distillery who was willing to work with me. And so we started putting out Jews and Booze branded barrels. So all the branding, TTB approved, all good. And I think most of them were MGP. There was, I think, 1 or 2 rums in there, but mostly MGP whiskey. And they did very well. Everybody was so excited about it. It went great. And from that, my brother works in commercial real estate. By the way, he just arrived, so maybe he's going to pop on screen. But my brother, he saw all this going on, and it's very exciting, very unexpected. I mean, who would have thought in a million years? Like, I work in healthcare, in public health. My brother works in real estate. I mean, nothing to do with the whiskey industry. Right. But we knew that we were having a great time, and we knew that there was this huge excitement and interest around what we were doing, and this white labeled custom brand opportunity without having to make a huge investment in infrastructure was something that just was awesome for me and Jews and Booze. And so my brother and I were talking, and we're like, wow, what if we could offer this opportunity to anybody? You don't need to be connected in the industry. You don't need to jump through all the hoops and learn all the lessons I had to learn along the way. We could set you up totally from scratch, from start to finish, to have your own custom product. And you don't have to invest all the crazy infrastructure in actually starting a distillery. Right. You could almost prove your concept with minimal risk, minimal investment. And the truth is, for individual people and enthusiasts, like a lot of the people I've become friends with through this whole thing, they love this idea of having their own barrel. I mean, and so this came out of a lot of conversations like that. One of the cool things, the new fill in particular, came out of. I was talking to some people, and they were having, a lot of my friends were having babies, and they were thinking, "This is my brother Dan."
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Put that in, yeah. So a lot of my friends were having babies, and we thought, wow, what if you could fill a brand, with Blantons, everybody looks for the date of their kid's birth, right?
Yeah.
What if you could fill a brand new barrel on the day your kid is born or around that day, and then bottle half of it at the kid's bar or bat mitzvah, and the other half when they get married? And I was like, wow,
what a great idea.
Cool concept. What an amazing gift. And, unless you are like well connected or know somebody, that's not really an option for basically anybody.
Right.
And so we were trying to play with this idea, and how do we make single barrels and barrel picks and this really fun, incredible opportunity? How do we make it accessible to everybody? And that's out of that came First Cut.
That's amazing. It's what a concept. Well, before we go too far, we really need to drink some whiskey. Right, boys? So
I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty.
You suggested that we try you sent us 3 different offerings. The first one is a rye from Indiana rye. So it's MGP, I assume.
Yes.
And so we're all going to pour a little bit.
119.96.
So we're almost at 60%. That's a
0.96.
whiskey with almost a 6.
Right.
2015.
It's 0.04 off. From
0.04 off. Just like you.
I'm
The
This is
95.5
95% rye, 5% barley.
One of the things that you see, like you guys know, but brands on the stores, there's a lot of like hiding. Like there's not full transparency, I want to say. And what I've found through this whole Juice and Boost thing is that transparency sells barrels. I mean, even if you don't think it's good, people want to know the details. That's half of the fun. Even if you don't like it, just knowing that you tried it and found out that you didn't like it, and now you could compare it to other things. I mean, that's all the fun.
Okay. A little clink clink before we go on here. Cheers, all.
Cheers, boys.
Lime.
Fine.
There you go.
I rushed ahead. Shame on me.
Well, we expected no more from you.
No class.
Or is it no less? Which one is it?
No less.
How old is this aged for?
So this is actually still in. So these barrels we have them here. They're still available for purchase. This particular barrel was barreled in September of 2015. So this is about to turn or just turned 8 years old.
Just 8 years. Wow.
Yeah, everything we have to taste is available for sale, and that's kind of our concept. Is that when you come in, you're going to get to try 5 or 6 different whiskeys.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those can be yours. Once a barrel is sold to someone else, that barrel is locked up, and we do not take any more juice out of that because that belongs to someone else.
So you are making the investment in a bunch of barrels without having them sold yet.
Not just barrels, but we also have a variety of different totes of actual White Dog distillate right off the still.
Okay.
So when we fill barrels, we could fill barrels with distillate from a variety of different distilleries that are name brands.
Right. Wow.
Now, do you give out that name of those distilleries?
When we can, definitely. MGP is a big supplier.
Got it.
Some are a little protective and make us sign contracts. Protecting.
So how does this work with the 3-tiered system? Where's the retailer part in here?
So we've partner retailers. Right now, we're really focusing on Connecticut because of, as you guys know, the 3-tier system makes things very complicated, especially when crossing state borders. So we're really trying to focus on Connecticut and the New York City tri-state area. But we have retail partners in Connecticut, and we're working on building retail relationships with retailers around the country.
Got it.
There are retailers that we work with, like, for example, in DC, where they're able to ship and distribute to more places than we can from inside of Connecticut.
So a club comes to you, picks a barrel, you guys create it, bottle it, it goes to a retailer, and then that group purchases it from the retailer, or whoever wants to purchase from that retailer, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
Got
okay.
it.
So the retailer's sort of like the middleman.
Correct.
By law.
So in
You
the
have to have the
state
retailer.
of Connecticut, as long as we sell underneath a certain amount of proof gallons, which it would be the equivalent of a few, $15 million of whiskey, which, it would be a lot of whiskey. We could sell unlimited quantities direct to retail. And retailers in the state of Connecticut can sell unlimited quantities to consumer. So therefore, as long as we go through the retailer, pay the appropriate taxes to the state, everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's all about the dollar. As long as the government gets their money, everybody's happy.
Yeah, like what does it say? It's always about the money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Always about the money.
Well, the 95.5 is pretty famous, pretty well known. It's delicious. We've had it lots of times.
That's got some
various-
heat. That's a heater.
Well, it's a 60% alcohol, so that would do it.
I know, but I'm saying it's got some potency.
We've had it, but not maybe as consistently
At
as
60?
that proof. Wow.
No, usually we see it at 43.
Right.
A lot of 43s at this at that formula.
So
Go ahead.
So you've got barrels on site.
Yes.
Okay, and so it's really continuing to age as long as it's in that barrel.
Yep.
We actually have customers that have purchased barrels. They've bottled a portion of the barrel today.
Right.
Purchased it. And then they decide to actually continue aging the remainder of the barrel. And we closely watch that. We send them samples regularly.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about
it? Doesn't get over oak, but they want to see how that matures.
Do you ever take that balance of barrel and put it into another barrel?
To double up? Yeah, I mean, we haven't done that yet. But
somebody wants a sherry. So do you do sherry casks? Do you do wine casks? Do you do other kind of casks? Well,
so everything we do, whatever the client wants. If the client wants that, we do that. I'll tell you. So right now, Jews and Booze is a client of First Cut, and the not the next barrel that's coming out, but the one after that is actually you guys will now be the first to know. It's actually a 7.5-year, 99% corn MGP bourbon that has now been sitting for 2 weeks in a cherry brandy barrel. It'll probably sit for another, I'm guessing, 4 to 6 weeks before we bottle.
That could be delicious.
Oh man, just popping it open now, the nose is unreal.
It's like a Manhattan. It's like an old fashioned.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
It's actually, it's even cooler. Josh talked about a little bit how, we think the story is really important of where our whiskey is coming from. We like telling that story. When Josh sells this barrel, we can tell a real story. The barrel that the cherry brandy was made in, this is actually its third life. Its first life was a Jim Beam bourbon. This was a Jim Beam barrel back in the day, sold to the brandy distillery, who then put brandy in it, aged it in an old bourbon barrel, and now we're giving it a third life. As a finishing barrel, at 99% corn. So we go back to that story. I like to think of it in terms of restaurants and how we have all kind of fallen in love with this farm to table concept. You almost know the name of the cow you're eating when you get to go to a steakhouse. I don't know if we'll ever get to that extent in whiskey, but we want to tell the story behind everyone's whiskey, because if it's your own personal barrel, your own personal bottle, there's something nice about being able to tell, hey, I got the grains from here. I got the barrel was made by this cooperage, and et cetera, et cetera.
Hey, Aaron. So that's two podcasts in a row where the Portlandia, knowing where your chicken came from thing. So Portlandia is inevitable. That's all I'm saying.
We're going to do a Portlandia episode one day.
All right.
Anyway, a couple episodes.
Anyway, sorry, just an aside.
While we talk TV or movie here for a second, let's switch back to the watch part of our live stream here. We somehow in our discussions by email came up with a movie to talk about, and one that I had not seen in a long time. I don't know about you guys. It was near and dear to my heart when it came out in 1988, which kind of shocked me. It was, I don't know what I thought it came out, but 88. Wow. A Fish Called Wanda. And I was happy to see this one again. Any thoughts on the just initial thoughts on the movie from anybody?
Well, I mean, I think it was one of my suggestions. It was this one or Trading Places, and the common denominator in both is Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
And it's a fun movie. I remember when I saw it. I think I was in college. It would have been my junior year. I know the people I went with. I know the theater I saw it at, and I just remember leaving that theater and I just was laughing the whole way home. It was just such a fun movie. Such a fun movie.
I'll tell you what, the very first thing that jumped out at me was I do not remember sexy Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, silly boy.
Oh my
Silly
God.
boy. How old are you, Josh?
I'm
You've been married
37.
Oh, wow. That's why. She was like the queen of the 80s. I mean, go back and watch Trading Places next if you haven't seen it already.
I saw it when I was a kid. I don't remember her being so sexy. I'm definitely going to have to watch it.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
She was
True
all right.
Lies. That's another good movie with her.
Well, even what's the one with Pierce Brosnan? The Tailor of Panama.
Tailor of Panama. Yeah.
She's great in that.
Yep.
I mean, but anyway, yeah. I mean,
she's having this really. We're getting a little off the topic here, but she's having this really great renaissance, and she was just amazing in The Bear. If you guys see The Bear on Hulu, she had that amazing episode, the Christmas episode, few months back.
That might have been the most intense hour of television I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I got
PTSD on that one.
Yes, we love it. I've seen it 3 times. It's so good, and she is amazing. I said as soon 5 minutes in to her work in that, I said to my daughter, she's going to win an Emmy next year for this. This is just amazing work. And wasn't she in an Oscar nominated
She
film?
won the Oscar. She won the Oscar.
She won an Oscar, right. Yeah.
Right.
She's having a great she's having this great second part of her career here. This is awesome. And now we're going back to like the beginnings, right? And what do you got? A little the back of the baseball card on the movie.
All right. So release date was July 29th, 1988. Budget $7.5 million. Box office $62.5 million. So not bad.
Wow.
Made a little bit of money. Where should I go next? Okay. IMDb score 7.5 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes 96%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Metascore 80. So it is directed by Charles Crichton with a little sub credit to John Cleese, and the writers were John Cleese and Charles Crichton.
And so I read something about this, and they said that Cleese said, I had nothing to do with directing this movie. They said they were deathly afraid that the 78-year-old that they had brought in to be the director would not make it through the movie.
Right.
So they said for insurance reasons, I had to sign on as the co-director or whatever. Said I don't know how to direct. It wasn't me at all. Everything was him, not me.
But Cleese directed. He wrote it.
He wrote it.
He wrote it.
Yeah, he wrote it with the director. He wrote with the director.
It feels Python-esque in a lot of ways, and I remember thinking, my friends and I were all Python folks, and seeing these guys out of the Python world and into like regular movies was really fascinating. Yeah. And did they translate well to regular movies? And it's got Python elements to it, yet it's just a regular movie in a lot of ways. I mean, it's a heist movie, right? But he is so good, Cleese, as an actor, as a comedic actor. He is so great, right?
Yep.
And I think there were some Faulty Towers elements to it too, where
totally, yes.
Almost every time he turned a corner, something was going to happen or didn't happen, and you see him yelling and he's surprised or scared at some point, and everyone catches him like, "What is wrong with you?" Like that's so Faulty Towers at that point.
Yeah. The film follows a gang of diamond thieves who double-cross one another to find stolen diamonds hidden by the gang leader. And a barrister, who's John Cleese, becomes a central figure as femme fatale Wanda, who is Jamie Lee Curtis, uses him to locate the loot. It's a pretty simple concept.
Yeah,
yet
absolutely.
It's definitely a farce and with crazy heist with so much comedy in it. And don't forget, we have Michael Palin, who is
he's no slouch either.
He's no slouch either. And these guys are all pushing. Well, those guys are pushing 80.
Now, not then.
No. And Jamie Lee Curtis now is what? She's
64, I think. She's like
60,
early to
yeah.
mid 60s.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot how funny Kevin Kline.
Yeah, Kevin Kline was great.
It was.
Yeah.
I couldn't, because I can't remember a lot of other Kevin Kline films. I mean, there's a few, but he was so good in this. He was just like this rock star.
Yeah, he was really good.
One of the things that I think you find a lot with the stuff that the Python guys work with is their use of language.
Yep.
And it carries through the whole movie. Like even the original bad guy, George.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
His name is George Thompson in it. His real name is Tom Georgeson. Like Cleese just like, I'm just going to reverse your name because it's just so English that you're named like Tom and George. We're just going to keep using those names over again.
Yes, and that's very, very Python-esque.
And the repetitive shtick with Michael Palin with the stutter.
Yes.
Where the people that know him are like, okay, well, I know where you're forming a word. It's going to be this. Is it this? Is it this? Yes. Where if someone actually has to stutter, you would never do that. But for this, they're like, correct. We got to speed this up. Come on, what are you doing?
And only one time did somebody figure out, Kevin Kline, you could write this down.
Yeah,
right. You could actually put it on paper.
Oh, that was John Cleese right at the end.
Cleese, yes.
Yeah.
It has such a great flow to the movie. It doesn't have. It could be a movie that just has these dead spots to it, but it keeps going. It really, you're on the edge of the seat, in mystery and comedic. For comedic reasons as well, it just has you going the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, it's only an hour and 40 minutes. It's not long.
It's tightly done, and the scenes are great. Individually, the scenes are great, and the chemistry between all these characters is so good. Even some of the ancillary characters, the wife, John Cleese's wife.
Oh, she's fantastic.
She is fantastic.
She was so funny.
I don't know who she is. I don't know what she did after that or before that.
Her name is Maria Aitken. She looks familiar, though.
She does look familiar, yeah.
She looks familiar. She's just really good. You know what I really like with her? Just since you brought her up, when Kevin Kline's doing the whole thing that is with the CIA and they got the KGB agent, right. And he makes up the name, and then she repeats the name like perfectly to the letter. Manfred something or whatever. It was
well, listen, Mr. Yes.
Oh, she was
great. So funny.
She was
yes.
My father was in the Secret Service.
You would not be telling people this.
No. Josh,
I mean, the part where Kline, where what's his name? The guy with the stutter catches them in the bedroom.
Yes.
Yeah. And then he runs out and pretends he's gay.
Yeah.
I thought that I was blown away. I thought that was genius. It was so funny. And who would think of something like that? It was awesome.
Otto.
I love the sad killing of 3 small dogs.
Yeah.
Trying to kill off that woman. Oh my God. So funny.
And it's the animal lover that's doing it. Which each time he's trying a little bit more, then he's killed another dog.
And he at the end, and he's just dying a little bit each time that one of the fish is swallowed, and he's just it's killing him, and then he finally goes off the deep end at the end there. Oh, it is such a funny movie. It is so. I recall because my friends and I were very into Monty Python that. We had, and there had already been Python movies, right? So we'd already gotten to see the Pythons on this big screen.
Yeah,
in these crazy
Life and
Life of Brian. They were just these larger than life characters that are on these little tiny PBS channel. We were watching stuff from them late night, and then it's oh my God, they're there, and then all of a sudden you have this is like a real movie with Hollywood produced this thing. Yeah. This is crazy. And Cleese was always my favorite. And he was like Alan Alda, right? He's like the lead.
He's the British Alan Alda. That's a good comparison.
Totally. He was the leader of this band of crazy people. And he was the smart, it appeared to be the smarter of all of them, right? And all those guys were all like,
But they're all Oxford and Cambridge and all these places.
Oxford, Cambridge,
well-educated guys, right? And
Right.
and it comes out in their language and their humor, and right, they could have all been National Lampoon guys who went on Saturday Night Live, right? So, yeah, it just was great seeing them transition to Hollywood, and they didn't really all successfully do it long term, right? What's his name? Who directed a lot of the films?
Terry
Terry
Gilliam?
Jones.
Terry Gilliam, right?
Terry Gilliam.
Terry Gilliam. He's had a very interesting career with big movies that don't go anywhere. It's cost a lot of money. But the other guys
Brazil,
have been
Baron von Munchausen.
exactly.
were
Right.
fun, though.
Yes.
They were
Time
fun
Bandits.
movies,
Yeah.
I like Time Bandits. I
though.
like
The
to like.
Fisher King.
Oh, Fisher King. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good
Yeah.
fun. From what I remember, I haven't seen it in 30 years, but it was good from what I remember.
I love Brazil, and
Yeah.
Time Bandits was really good too.
And he spent like 30 years trying to make Don Quixote.
Yep.
Get that go day, right?
Yeah.
Did that come out?
I think
Was it-
what they released was a documentary on him trying to make Don
The
Quixote.
documentary is really good.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's
is
what
it?
came out.
Yeah,
I don't think
Lost
he
in
ever
La
was able to
Mancha.
make the movie.
Yeah, the documentary is Lost in La Mancha. I think it was made by a couple
Yeah.
of students from the Temple.
Yeah.
Film students.
So
Wow.
I think that's what came out. I think they're like, let's do a documentary about this disaster.
Okay, we'll take a little pause here. Again, we're what we watch when we drink on the Booze Dancing Entertainment Network. We are with Josh Mann from First Cut Barrel Company. Josh is in Stamford, Connecticut, at his location at the. Do you call it the distillery? Because you're not actually distilling anything. Do you just call it your offices, or?
Well, so we still have to have the same distillery license.
So you're calling it your distillery.
Is that because you're storing barrels?
Yeah, so we have to have a legal bonded warehouse. We have to have a rectifier's license. So we can't actually distill spirits, but basically everything else we can do, and it's just a different class of the same license.
Got it. Okay. So you also
And distillery is a lot sexier than rectifier.
Yes. Rectifier doesn't sound very nice.
It sounds like you're bringing people back from the dead. I don't know if I want to.
pretty much, yeah. Which is a different podcast. So I had a few questions.
The Lazarus Pod.
That's right.
Huh?
The Lazarus Pod. That's good. We could do that one. I had a couple other questions that came up from earlier we spoke. So, your clientele, is it primarily individuals or is it primarily groups?
Up until now, it's been primarily individuals.
Really?
Individuals and corporate clients. Like our very first bottling was an investment firm in Manhattan.
I was going to say that would be a
their 10th
perfect
anniversary.
client being where you are.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it was their 10th anniversary. We did a really special 10-year rye that was 51% rye, 49% malted barley. I mean, it was delicious. 10 years old, and they loved it. It was a huge hit. And from there, we haven't spent any money on marketing. Kiddish Fest is literally the only marketing we've done.
Really?
So far, all of our businesses come from word of mouth.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine if you closed the deal, if you were having a work anniversary, if you're doing something else, that'd be a great gift for the employees. You're like, here,
Totally.
everybody have a bottle.
Yeah.
So whiskey is the new Rolex watch?
Pretty much. Yeah.
A lot cheaper, I guess, right? Get rid of
Yeah.
Rolex watch.
Right.
Yeah.
Depends on which whiskey you're drinking, I guess.
That's true.
So these are, we've been talking mostly American whiskeys. Have you done non-American whiskeys? Anything?
Yep. We just sold, one of them is going to Jews and Booze, but the other two are going to other people. A Canadian whiskey, 23 years old. We're working on we've got barrels of Irish whiskey coming soon. I mean, this is from the US, but we just got a bunch of barrels of American single malt, ages between 5 and 7 years. That is really something special.
Can you say from where?
MGP.
Oh.
The single malts are from MGP.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so what's the process that you have with distilleries? They send you samples from barrels and then you're picking a sample, or you're actually asking for a specific recipe?
So it really depends on the distillery. Some of the bigger ones, they're not going to give you samples of specific barrels only because if they're sending them out to 20 people, by the time I try the sample, it might already be gone. So what they give you is sort of representative samples. A lot of them have a minimum barrel buy. So if you get a representative sample and you're getting 4 barrels, you could expect, the 4 barrels are going to approximate something around that.
Right.
Some of the smaller producers will allow us to actually taste barrels. Obviously, we can't know how many bottles are in the barrel because it's still in the barrel. So some of them will even weigh the barrel so that we have a little formula that we can estimate how many bottles are going to come out. But again, it really comes down to the distillery because for a huge distillery, that it doesn't pay for them to start weighing individual barrels for a little nobody like us,
Yep. So are you in your
and everything's coming out of cask strength?
Oh, good question.
Depends on what the client wants. So far, all the clients have wanted cask strength, but we're happy to proof it down if people want.
Right. And that would give you more bottles. So if somebody wanted more bottles, they'd proof it down, right?
Yeah. Or blend barrels if they want.
Yeah.
So have you been doing any kind of blending there on premises?
Yep. We could do everything on premises. We actually have a great setup. We're not open to the public. We're only open by appointment. So everything here is set up for personal private appointments. So we have a whole, basically it looks like a lab set up when groups could come, people could come with their friends, a retirement party, birthday party, something like that. And we set up a whole thing for you guys to actually blend different things, see different amounts. And when you come up with a blend you like, we could actually put it together for you.
That's cool. So the next whiskey you sent to us or suggested we drink is the straight bourbon, Kentucky bourbon, 53% corn, and looks like 104 proof. Looks like.
Yep,
right?
Just over 104. I think this one's really special. It's from Lexington Distillery in Kentucky. I like to think of this one as a Scotch drinker's bourbon, mostly because of the high malted barley content. I feel like rarely do we see a bourbon with so much malted barley in it. And I think Scotch, it's much more approachable for a Scotch drinker, I think.
I think that's one of the things you notice on the nose. It's a little grainier than you typically get out of a bourbon. You're getting all that extra barley coming in. Yeah.
Yep.
And how old is this?
This was barreled in September of 2016. So just turned 7.
16, so it's 7. Wow.
Now this is still in a barrel. What you gave us? This is when you poured this off of a barrel that you have in your warehouse.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh,
So
this
it's
is delicious.
This is kind of like, this is almost like a snapshot of what the whiskey is as of whatever day you poured it. So it's still,
I think
it's still going.
Pulled the sample a week ago. Yeah.
Right. So I'm saying, but it's still going to evolve. If I kept this aside and I came over there in a year and you still have that barrel, it might be different.
It could be different. Yep.
I would hope it would be different. Yeah.
Right. No, but I mean, it could be substantially different, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah.
This is delicious. Wow. That's really good. I love the high.
This is my brother's favorite barrel that we have right now.
It's pretty good. Is your brother a Scotch guy?
I wouldn't say a Scotch guy. I think, but he's more open. I would typically gravitate to ryes and bourbons, whereas he's more open, I would say.
That is good.
That actually seems hotter than the rye.
You think?
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Go ahead.
I like the heavily wheated bourbons, and I like high barley bourbons as well. There aren't a lot, like you said, but they just mellow things out for me. I like them.
Oh, this isn't as hot. No, the rye was hotter, I thought. This is a lot smoother. This is like silky.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what it does. That's that. I think the barley does that, and like wheat will do the same thing.
Yeah, it'll soften it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't mean the spice of it. I mean the finish. Because there's more of a finish with this.
Oh, okay. It's really
Speak
good.
clearly, Mike. Speak clearly. Come on, man.
He's drinking. Leave him alone. He's drinking. He's rinsing his We're his dinner away.
No, he's getting ready to insult me. He's getting ready to insult me.
Rinsing it all.
Mike, what
So
would Play-Doh
if we
do?
wanted to buy 10 bottles, can we buy 10 bottles? Or do we got to buy a whole barrel? Like, what are you doing in terms of sending it out?
Yeah, what's your minimum?
So right now we're only set up to do full barrels.
Full barrels.
In certain situations where we know the other half of a barrel, like if two groups wanted to split a barrel, we could do that, or two individuals or whatever.
Right.
But we're really only set up for full barrels. One of the nice already aged barrels almost always are coming in 53-gallon barrels. 53-gallon barrel, you can imagine you're getting anywhere from 180 to 220 bottles, which is more than most people need.
Right.
So for our new fill barrels, what we're doing is we have other sizes of barrels. So we also have 15-gallon and 30-gallon barrels. Much more reasonable. A 15-gallon barrel, you're probably the maximum you're letting that age is 2 years. After 2 years of aging, you're probably looking at 65 to 70 bottles, which is a much more reasonable number and not a crazy wait time.
Right.
So, Josh, my group calls you up today and says, "Hey, we want to buy this barrel. We loved it. We loved the sample. It was great. When can I have bottles? What's the turnaround process and time?"
It's really quick. There's basically two limiting factors. One, first is the label design. So the client, it's their label. They design it however they want, as long as it fits the rules of the TTB.
Right.
It's their design. So however long it takes them to design it and get the proof to us, that's the first piece. The second piece is submitting it to the TTB, and we know the government always gets everything done right away. So whenever they get around to it, yeah. So those are basically the two limiting factors. Other than that, the turnaround is extremely quick.
And then the other issue would be if we were calling from a different state to make sure that we could get you a local, retailer to go and work with you to go and send it to them so we could pick it up from them.
Right.
So if we're not in Connecticut or we're not in DC, we'd have to find someone else that could work with you, right?
So the client could order the whiskey from you, but you still have to go through the retailer to get the bottles to the client.
Correct.
And when you said like it was, and when you said that you were like limited in terms of like, 5, like you couldn't do 10 bottles because then like you're kind of, now you're like a retailer and that's not part of your license, I guess. Is that what the problem is? Or is just that you give all 5 and what am I going to do with the rest?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I think it's bigger.
The rest. And then it's no longer an exclusive product because the next person in line has the same bottles.
I got you.
Yes.
I got you. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So on the bottle labeling part, do you provide a template for customers so that if they're really designing themselves to follow all the TTB rules, or are you helping them in the process of designing? Because most people don't. There's a lot of specific rules with labeling.
Right. So I would say both. First, online, the TTB has a really helpful kind of online tool to help you design the label. It basically dissects every piece of the label. Yeah. So that's first. And second of all, although I'll be the first to admit I'm not a professional designer, but we will work together with the clients to put together something that they like.
Right. You've done it before, so use your expertise. You know what you're going to put together. It makes sense.
Right.
Now, in terms of the bottle itself, are they a particular shape that you happen to sell to them, or can you get any shape bottle somebody wanted? And are they only 750s?
Any shape, any size, as long as it's legal. So we can do any shape, any size. We could actually also do any custom work too. But obviously custom work, we have to charge extra for it.
Sure.
There's probably going to be a minimum. But other than custom work, we could basically get any bottle size, shape, style you're looking for.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So you literally could customize this just as customizable as somebody wanted.
Literally every aspect. You could you could decide the entry proof into the barrel. I mean, every aspect of this is totally up to the client.
Nice.
Talk about, you said earlier also the yeast strain. You said the rest of the yeast strain, I think you said, and also the components. You can the client can pretty much get whatever they want from the beginning to the end.
Literally every piece. I mean, the one caveat is that if you're getting an already aged barrel, you're obviously restricted to what already exists.
Right.
But if you're willing to do a new fill, we could make it however you want according to your specifications.
Wow. How many of those kinds of barrels have you done where somebody's starting fresh?
I want to say 5. We've done, I think, 3 15-gallons and 2 30-gallon barrels so far.
Huh.
Wow.
That's fascinating. And I love the idea of being able to, if you're taking product and putting them into smaller barrels, that someone could buy less, or choose a smaller size barrel for lots of reasons, right? Yeah. And that barrel, or you could choose, I want a PX finished barrel, right? You could do that too, I assume, right?
You could literally
I
do
like
anything.
I like this MGP rye, but I want you to put it in a PX cask for 2 months.
Or maybe I like this MGP rye. I want to bottle half of it, and I want to put the other half in the PX barrel for 2 months and be able to compare them.
Right.
See what happens.
That is something I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the smaller barrels, I guess they allow for lack of a better word, hyper aging. So, like you said, 2 years in a 15-gallon barrel might be like 4 years in a 53 or something like that, right?
I would probably say it's closer to like 7 or 8 in a 53, but what it comes down to is surface area.
Right.
And in a smaller barrel, the liquid has greater surface area in the wood to interact with.
Now, do you help the clients with the char for these barrels as well, too?
Yeah, so we have our barrels. We have a bunch of brand new charred American white oak barrels in various different char levels and toast levels. Right. So if they want char 5, I'm a big char 5 fan, so I would always push them towards that. But if they want char 3, we could do that. If they want a char 3 with a heavy toast, we could do that. Literally, it's whatever your imagination could come up with, we could do.
And if they want the raw casks or a little bit of char in the barrel, in the bottles, you'll let them do that too.
Well, I mean, you can put it in the bottle, sure, but this is your barrel. Once it's bottled, you keep the barrel. You bring the barrel home, turn it, fill it up if you want. That's your barrel, yeah. And we'll even laser engrave it for you with your name.
That's neat.
Nice.
Neat.
Yeah.
Have you done anything in the peated world?
Not yet. Most of the peated stuff is in Scotland. Importing whiskey from Europe adds a whole nother level of cost.
Yeah, right.
And for us, it's a whole nother level of risk. We're just new, so we haven't done that quite yet, but we're hoping in the next 6 months to be able to bring in some international barrels aside from just Canada.
That's fascinating. I think you said earlier you thought maybe you're the first on the East Coast doing this, or the only person. I would think you're the only person in the country doing this. This is pretty unique.
There's different variations on this, but I don't think anybody's doing exactly this, and definitely nobody on the East Coast. I mean, if you're a billionaire, you could do basically whatever you want.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, if you want a Kentucky barrel of bourbon that you go and taste and show off to your friends, you got to go to Kentucky. Now we're giving you that same opportunity, but right here in Stamford, within 45 minutes of Manhattan, 10 minutes from Greenwich, Connecticut. We're right on the Metro North line. We're really positioned in a great place.
Without giving numbers, I don't understand I'm the client and I come to you and I want to buy a barrel, but you have to sell the barrel to the retailer, right? Mm-hmm. So the retailer's paying you something, and me as the client, I'm paying you something also, correct?
So there's basically like a deposit that comes to us. And that is basically a contract fee that the client would pay directly to us, and that reserves the barrel for them.
So reserving the barrel is really is what the client is doing with a check, with some dollar amount, and that's the end of their financial responsibility. Retailer buys it, and then hopefully the client goes and buys bottles as many as he can from this retailer.
Right. That's so essentially when you pay that deposit, we have you sign a contract that you're going to buy those bottles from the retailer at a certain price. Yeah, all of them.
But that retailer could sell them to somebody else too, right? He could sell to if he's got 200 bottles in stock. Couldn't you sell one of those bottles to anyone that walks in off the street? Or your contract doesn't allow for that?
The deal we have with the retailer is that it's just one customer is going to come in and get it. So that way there's not much work on the retailer's part other than fulfilling.
He gets it. He sells it all.
It's more like an exclusive deal, right? The exclusive contract with them.
So it never goes on the shelf, basically.
Never goes on the shelf.
You deliver the cases, the client picks them up from the retailer. This is just to keep everybody happy from the government levels and all that.
It's really smart because I know from experience that a lot of retailers get burned. Burn's not really the right word, but a club or a client will go through the same process with a distillery, and then they're not forced to buy all those bottles, and then the retailer is sitting on some for quite a while. Yeah. But it's a risk they take, but this way there's none of that risk for the retailer.
Yeah. And there's also the whole burning bridges thing. I mean, I think you do that one too many times, no retailer's ever going to work with you again. Yeah, I mean, that's always a possibility, in the real world.
Yeah. Yep. Well, but most, like the big retailers, that are selling private, independent bottles, they don't know that they're going to sell them all. K&L has all these bottles from wherever that they've sourced somewhere, Signatory or some distillery. They're just taking the chance that they're going to sell them, right? Yeah. But they're big enough that they can take that chance,
right? And
smaller retailers,
they can sit on inventory for a while, and
yes,
yeah,
right.
But I will say that some of our clients are retailers, so it would in those cases actually be for sale in the store under whatever branding they want.
Okay, that makes sense too. So like K&L could come to you and say, we want to make some, or Astor or someone on your side of the world, and say, hey, we want to buy a whole barrel and with our labeling, and then they're sitting on the inventory and they're selling it to their regular customer base. Yeah, exactly. That's great. That's cool too for those retailers that can afford to do that. That's really cool.
And we're hoping to work with big restaurant chains, sports teams. There's the opportunities are endless here. It's just a matter of letting people know that this exists.
Yeah, boy, that's great. Double back to the movie for a minute. Gents, did you guys have any other thoughts on it?
What, the movie?
And like you said, you've done all the legwork in terms of the label and the TTB and the taxes and who pays what and how it goes from place to place.
What happened to the movie?
Mike just forgot. He forgot that we're talking about the movie.
He just had a senior moment.
Yeah, senior moment. So any other thoughts on A Fish Called Wanda from 1988?
It's just really funny. There's some random facts that they had on the IMDb site for trivia. What? What's the problem?
What are those facts?
There's some interesting ones. So apparently Michael Palin's father stuttered. So Palin used a lot of his real life. I'm just reading it. Used a lot of his real life experience when playing Ken Pyle, including the fact that Ken's stutter is less pronounced around people he trusts, George and Wanda, for instance, and worse around people with whom he is uncomfortable. Otto.
Wow.
So
that's a good factoid.
And there was another one that came up. They also said that what was it? I thought I read somewhere that here we go. Michael Palin founded the London Center for Stammering Children after a group of stutterers confronted him regarding the sensitivity with which he dealt with Ken Pyle's handicap in the movie.
I wondered about that. I think we lost Mike. He was having, I think, some connection problems there.
I think so.
So that's interesting too, because you and I talked off the air about the political correctness now of some of the movie.
But see, I didn't get the impression that Michael Palin was making fun of stutterers at any point. If anything, it was just Otto.
I don't disagree with you, but I could see
right.
Groups today would be concerned. So
I don't think there's any way this movie gets made in 2023.
Yeah, there's a few things that I think will probably be a problem.
Yes, correct. A few things, yeah. No. Well, we look at a lot of older movies, Josh, and we say that a lot. We say that quite often. That there's no way this happens today. This movie, it would be very different. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
which is sad, because I think it's so great. There's no reason this movie should be re-released today and in wide release, and it would still, I think, sell well. Political correctness or not.
Speaking of okay, let's say something like The Boys, right?
Yeah.
There's so much insane stuff on The Boys that this pales in comparison to that.
You are right. There is so much stuff out there that is so much farther off the rails that people should be upset about or could be upset about, versus Michael Palin stuttering in 40 years ago, right? Or 35 years ago.
So I mean, he was convincing. Yeah. I thought he was. I thought he was incredibly convincing.
Yeah, it was great. What else do you?
And it wasn't just for the sake of a stutter. It really added to the movie, to the script, and
yes,
it wasn't just gratuitously just added.
No. And I can't remember. I think it's in Life of Brian. I think he has a character that he stutters a lot too.
Oh yeah.
Right.
He was like the Emperor at the end, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Because it was the whole thing with you have something to say about my friend Biggus Dickus. It was something like that.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah. It's a good thing that he does. It's a part of his little bag of tricks.
And apparently he grew up with it, so I guess he
right. Yep.
He has the sense for it.
What else did you have? Any other little factoids in there?
Archie Leach's daughter, Portia, is actually John Cleese's real daughter.
Really?
Cynthia Cleese.
Well, and Archie Leach, the name?
Oh yeah. So Archie Leach, actor, executive producer, and writer John Cleese chose the name Archie Leach, Cary Grant's real name, because he was born 20 miles away from where Grant was born, and because it was the closest Cleese could get to being Cary Grant, because he was a huge Cary Grant fan. And rightfully so, because Cary Grant's pretty awesome. So
yes,
the guy was pretty.
That's
great.
a good one too. I didn't realize that was his daughter.
There were a lot of little facts. There were a whole lot of little ones. What was this one here? So that was a bunch. I tried to pick and choose. Jamie Lee Curtis was listed as Jamie Lee Schwartz on all the call sheets because John Cleese found it amusing that her father's real name was Bernard Schwartz and her dad is Tony Curtis.
That's right. Yep.
So, what else we got here? There was a few others. The fish that Kevin Kline ate were made out of Jell-O. Kline claims that he offered to eat live fish, but the filmmaker,
of course, he did.
But they wouldn't let him.
He's a method actor.
Oh, he was pretty funny. All the stuff, just him talking Italian and just reciting recipes.
Oh,
and all
Italian was hilarious.
Just random Italian things.
So mozzarella. Great.
Awesome. And Cleese going into Italian and saying it's a just dirty language, and then it just goes into Russian. Oh my God, it's so funny.
Oh, there was a thing actually when Archie Leach was speaking in Italian, and he was saying they had the translation. And the translation was, but I married a woman who prefers working in the garden to making passionate love. A big mistake. And I guess he was talking about his wife, right? So it was pretty funny. The wife I thought was great. She was fantastic.
She was
so good. Oh, honey, I won my case. No one listens to it. She's just going off about all the nonsense she's dealing with.
Even the actor who plays George, Tom.
Yeah, Georgeson.
He was very good too.
Yeah, I don't remember I've seen him before.
I don't neither, but he was a good, darker, bad guy kind of guy, and he was good. Yeah,
he was very.
It was good to see London and strolling around the streets of London and going crazy everywhere, and that was very funny.
I like that apartment with the view of London Tower Bridge.
Oh my God,
that was cool. Right?
Oh, and when the other family comes home.
That was hysterical.
Oh my God!
Funny. Oh, you bought our house.
Oh yeah.
Oh hey, how you doing?
It's so it's such a little bit madcap at times, right?
Oh, totally.
And then it kind of devolves into a little bit of romantic comedy, and the chemistry between Jamie Lee Curtis and all of the men in
she was great.
Movie great. and she is just so sexy. She's so good, and
she's
a really great actress.
Yeah, she was only like 29 when that came out.
She was 29. Wow.
Which means she was probably like, what, 25 when Trading Places came out?
Yeah.
Wow.
So Trading Places is her not really first. Well, what's before that for her?
I don't know. She did Halloween too, right? It was all around
Halloween.
That time. I don't
Was
know
that
if Halloween
before?
I don't know.
Before,
I don't
right?
remember.
Yeah, I think Halloween was before that.
Okay.
And I think I heard that she's doing another one, the last one.
Yeah. Did they finally kill Michael Myers or whatever it is? Hey, you know, it's
Not as long as you keep making money.
yeah. Hey, you know what's
That's
cool? Right. I was looking up. She's been married to Christopher Guest for like decades.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
correct.
And she was married to him before this came out because it was right around the time Spinal Tap came out. And it looks like Kevin Kline's still married to Phoebe Cates.
Yep.
So, what?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's like 60, I think.
That's crazy.
What happened?
We lost Mike again.
He's got. Did I do that? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mike. It was an accident.
All the time with you.
What? No, I could do it again.
I think the biggest shocking news is Kevin Kline is still married to Phoebe Cates. I had no idea.
Pretty wild. Meanwhile, John Cleese has been married, like 5 times?
Yeah. Right.
He's been married like a bunch of times. It's just kind of funny.
Yes.
You know?
And I think he still lives in Santa Barbara, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it says a lot about Jamie Lee Curtis that she's been married to Christopher Guest because Christopher Guest is a pretty funny guy.
Oh my God. We could go off on Christopher Guest and
he's a pretty funny guy. And she's very funny.
He's the fifth Baron, you know. He's the fifth Baron, Christopher Guest.
What do you mean the fifth Baron?
He's actually English royalty.
Really?
What?
He's the fifth Baron.
Of
like
what?
Hayden Guest or something like that.
Really?
He was a life peer till they removed the life peers.
Interesting.
Wow. Crazy.
And I mean, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis is sort of Hollywood royalty, right? Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis's daughter.
Well, what was really funny with her during the last award season, she kept introducing herself as a Nepo baby. I'm a Nepo baby. You're like, all right.
Well, she's like, she is. Yes.
But now you're like, all right, I think maybe you earned it. I think okay.
She's earned it by now. You know, Halloween, maybe she didn't.
I'm a Nepo baby.
Yeah. I think we could forgive her after Trading Places.
Oh, absolutely. She was so good. Yeah. She was great.
Yeah. Well, we got one last whiskey here that Josh sent along. This is a MGP straight bourbon. Ooh, 109.7.
Okay.
On the Richter scale.
Uh-huh.
That's our next one.
This is one of the MGP's cool mash bills. It's I call it their low rye bourbon mash bill. It's the 21% rye. It's this one. I think it's pretty good. It's May 2015. This was barreled, so this is a little over 8 years.
A little over 8.
Wait, this is you said it's a bourbon?
Yes. Yeah.
No, I gotta get the glasses out. I can't read it. I gotta get the glasses out.
But it's still pretty spicy though for their low rye.
So nice. Low rye to MGP can even be considered a high rye to a lot of other places.
Yeah, for somebody else, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, I was reading it and I couldn't tell, and I got a little confused. I didn't see the little percentage. For a second there, I thought it said 75% corn, 21% rye, 40% barley. I'm like, hang on a second. We're over 100%. Okay. Never mind. Hence the glasses.
I think I like the Kentucky one a little bit better. I think I like the barley in there.
I like that.
Very different.
Yeah. It kind of rounds it out for me a little bit more. Yeah. That's still nice though.
I like the spice though. I just like that little kick of rye.
By the way, the one that you like, the Lexington one, is the youngest of the three. Yeah. So it just goes to show you, like, it's not all about age.
Nope.
No, which is great. I mean, that's, like with all the scotches with the no age statement whiskeys and all that. It doesn't really matter. Is it good?
Yeah.
That's it.
So Josh, have you and your brother, you've done this now for a little while. Your company's a couple years old. How did you educate yourself on all this? On the actual techiness of it, of the whiskey making process, and all that there is to it. Did you read a lot, talk to people a lot? You've learned by osmosis how all those things.
It's been an adventure. First of all, a lot of whiskey drinking. That's definitely the start.
That's how we are in the position we are in.
Yes. Figuring out what I like, tasting different things. Really the greatest variety that I've been able to get my hands on and tasting it and figuring out, this flavor, this profile is coming from this grain or this type of char barrel, whatever. So that was a big part of it. And I've also been very lucky, through the Jews and Booze thing and just through this whole process, I've been very lucky to have, I told you, I've met some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life through this whole thing. I feel very, very blessed. And those people have been very, I feel the people in the whiskey industry are extremely, extremely generous. Not necessarily with money, with their time, with their expertise, and with their camaraderie. There's been so many people that have helped us along the way, from people like Ari Sussman is the head distiller at the Mammoth Distilling in Michigan. He's been involved in a bunch of products. He's been a mentor to us. Dave Schmier, Redemption Whiskey and Proof and Wood. I mean, he's been a mentor. Joshua Hatton, Single Cast Nation. Yeah. He's been a mentor. We've been able to just draw from these friendships that we've developed, and they've become like mentors. And I know that I've got a bunch of people, whenever anything comes up, I have a bunch of people that I could call and ask for help, advice, insight. I mean, even just this morning, we had a guy from, I don't know if you know him, Brandon Collins from Kings County Distillery. He was here and he was working with us on optimizing our process, because we're always looking to improve. And it's all about connections. It's all about the people you meet and friendships. And we've been very, very lucky.
Right.
Yeah, I think we've seen that over the years. We've been kind of in this world about 10, 12 years ourselves, and we see that all the time. We see the collaborativeness of the community in at least in this country, and I think it's true in other countries too. We see it in the Scotch world as well. You mentioned Hatton, and Joshua and Jason have started like you. They didn't know what they were doing, right? And they've become this interesting. They have this interesting part of the segment as well, and they've forged all these relationships, really over glasses of whiskey, over the years, right? And it really speaks to the whole industry. It's just a lot of good people. Now, I can't say that necessarily about the folks that are at the higher end of Diageo and these large corporations. Can't say we don't know that. We know everyone that in our little realm of the lower tiers, I guess you'd say. Everyone is great. Everyone is great.
And it's not just the industry. I mean, I guess everyone's industry, but it's people who are influencers or doing these Instagram accounts or whatever. People doing podcasts like you guys. I mean, I've become so close with Maggie Kimbrell is an amazing journalist. I mean, people like that. I've been so blessed to be able to call them friends. Yeah.
And we've got so many friends that we've developed over the years from going to whiskey shows and our podcast and our blog. We have these friends. Angelo and I met on Twitter, right?
This is true. This is true.
How long ago? 12 years ago, something like that?
Whenever the second Jubilee was.
Yeah,
right before
Whiskey
that.
Jubilee.
Elon Musk, if you're watching, you're the guys you got to talk to.
Well, he swiped right. Is that what happened? He swiped right?
Of course I did.
Yes, I did.
Look it up. He's a mensch.
He's a mensch.
Right.
He's a catch.
So it's funny how this community wrapped around this brown spirit is really grown, and it's really literally organic.
Hey, by the way, it helps that these are all excuses to drink more.
It does.
Yes.
And it's always fun to drink with people. So
if this was candy, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, yeah, we might. I don't know. I think we could bond over Sour Patch Kids.
Candydancing.com. Can we have that website?
Why not?
Listen, I'll tell you what. Nobody ever leaves here. I've been, I work in healthcare. I work for my full-time job is for a rare cancer nonprofit. So, my job is not always so all smiles and happiness. And my brother works in real estate, and obviously commercial real estate lately is, not the best industry to be in. And and yet not a single person ever leaves here without a smile on their face.
I was going to say sober, but
Well, sometimes it's a crooked smile, but yeah, a smile nonetheless.
So,
why are you moaning? Come on.
So you guys, I know it's really early in your company's lifespan here. Do you have other thoughts, goals where this company can go? Aside from just selling more of the same kind of what this general product is now?
Yeah, I think first of all, the like we said in the beginning, we're really focusing on Connecticut and the tri-state area right now, but we see a lot of opportunity in every major metropolitan area where there is a whiskey community, where there's people who are interested in this whole thing. So we see eventually, outposts of First Cut in a bunch of different major cities. And another thing that potentially we could see in the future is moving beyond just whiskey. There's other communities built around spirits. The one that comes to mind right away is tequila and brandy. With our license and what we're doing with really we're focusing on the barrel aging and the barrel filling and the barrel aspect. We could do any barrel aged spirit. And so there's a lot of room to try new things and expand into different opportunities. Right now we're really trying to focus on Connecticut, tri-state area, and whiskey.
What's the third state, the tri-state area? Is it New Jersey or is it?
Yeah, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
Okay.
Although I live in Boston, so anybody who's in Massachusetts, we'd love to have you come down.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Jersey or Rhode Island or I don't know. So
one thing I would add to that, to what Josh said, is that my background from college is in hospitality, and it's all about the experience. And what we're trying to create here is more than just a product. In fact, I would say what our focus is not actually the product. It's coming together with groups of friends and family and individuals and companies to create something that's memorable as an experience. We believe that the tasting room is just as important as the end product itself. And that's why bringing First Cut to other major metropolitan areas to make it more accessible to our clientele is a big goal of ours. So,
That's great.
I think having these outposts at every metropolitan area where, it is a luxury product. This is not toothbrushes and Band-Aids, but every metropolitan area where there is a population that can afford it and can appreciate it. We think we need to be there.
Yeah, I think you've got to, we always talk about where this little world is a niche within a niche, right? Whiskey is a niche within a niche. And when you get into the cast strength stuff, when you get into barrel picks, you're talking super niche. And what you guys are doing is super, super niche. But there is a market for all of that because there's niches within the population who are looking for this kind of thing, I think. You've obviously found, there's clubs and there's specialty retailers and charitable organizations who are looking for this kind of niche-y thing. And you guys I think you got a leg up on a lot of people on this. I think it's a really unique and fun product that I think you're right, Dan. You are selling a unique experience where you can go. It's like if you could go to Detroit and go to Ford and say, I want to walk around the assembly line and I want to pick out all the things to make my car. That car would be really special to you, right?
Well, you can.
It's funny you say that. Actually, at Volkswagen, they have a program where they will fly you out to Germany, and it costs a lot of money. But literally, you can customize every inch of the car down to the stitching on every seat. Any color you want, anything. That's pretty cool. And when they fly you out there, you come and they do the whole reveal with the curtain and everything. you don't even get to take the car off the lot at that time because legally it's still in Volkswagen.
Theirs.
And that they import it and everything like that. But it's all part of that experience. And so we're trying to do the same thing.
I think it's great. I think it's a really interesting idea. And we were really happy to meet you guys at Kiddish Fest because it was a little hard to figure out what you guys do. And now talking to you guys, it totally makes sense. This has been really a enlightening, eye-opening evening. We can't thank you enough for coming on, and thank you for the samples. These are really beautiful whiskeys, and whoever buys these barrels are going to be very, very happy customers. I think whenever they buy them.
And Mike and I are going to run some spreadsheets and finish up the rest of this stuff and do the math and figure out what's going on with this. We'll sign up with a franchise.
Nice. The New Jersey franchise. Yeah.
The best part about whiskey is getting to share it with people like you guys. So thank you guys so much for allowing us to be with you. And hopefully when you guys are ready, you'll come and actually come here in person. And like we said,
it'll be fun.
This is an experience company. So we want you to come and actually pull the bung out of the barrel yourself, put the thief right into the barrel and pull the whiskey out yourself. It's all a big part of the experience. And so we want you guys, this is our invitation. You guys come down here and we're going to have a great time.
Hey, Mike, when's the next meeting? You got a meeting in Connecticut, don't you?
Yeah, I go to Stanford every May. So
there you go.
Okay. All right, let me know.
Not go to the client event and just duck out to go over there.
We can coordinate this. I got a friend that lives in the next town over, so
My daughter's in school in Massachusetts, so I'll have to kind of coordinate. So there's nothing better than walking into a large room with a lot of barrels of whiskey. The smell of it is the best. There's nothing greater. It's the best. Do you guys have do you call it a warehouse? Do you call it a rick house? What do you guys call your space?
A barrel.
We've been calling it a barrel room. But it's basically, I don't know, 30-foot high ceilings? It's basically a giant warehouse, but we call it a barrel room.
Got it.
We have the ability to grow to about 35,000 square feet. So we're in a small fraction of that today. I don't need to overextend myself in real estate. But when we're ready, we're going to knock down some walls. We're going to go vertical. We got a whole nother floor above us, so we can go, and we have optionality to do it. So
that's great.
Wow,
that's great. You guys are ready for growth. That's awesome. We have been with Josh and Dan Mann from the First Cut Barrel Company in Stamford, Connecticut. And tonight we watched A Fish Called Wanda, a movie we all love. And we drank some beautiful whiskeys from these guys. Yeah. And if you're out there and you've got a club or organization that is looking for your own special barrel, you got to get on the horn right now. Get on the website. I assume you can contact you guys on the website and place your order, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. That's so. I'm guessing it's a pretty easy process. It's like going to. You guys are the CarMax of whiskey, right?
One day. I don't know if we're that easy yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we definitely want to roll out the red carpet for our clients and make sure that every piece of the experience feels personal, exclusive, and most of all fun.
That's great. That's great. Sure, guys, thank you for coming on the show. On boozdancing.com. This will be on a podcast soon. You can just be able to download it.
Give me a few.
Listen whenever you want. A couple weeks it'll be out. And we just thank you guys for coming on today. This is great.
Yeah. Great. Good luck with the company.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a great Saturday night. Don't go anywhere. Ange?
Play us off.
Roll us out?
Play us off? All right. Let me find
Play us off.
Here we go. I found them. All right. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers.